Good evening. I'm going to start the meeting now. It's about 6:01. Pete, are you out there somewhere? Would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
Yes, sir.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pete.
Yes, sir.
Well, we're getting started here. Barry Giannetti, the CFO, is going to actually do the presentation on the actual financial numbers and the dues and how we arrived at our budget. But before we do that, I'd like to acknowledge the Board of Directors and the finance group that worked so diligently to get this where it is. I don't know where you sit on what is the current dues process at $15, but I can tell you the initial review was a lot higher. And the board and the finance group worked together. We had a number of meetings to get it down to this level. So with that, I'd like to acknowledge the board and have them stand up so I can see them. Kathy Craven, the Vice President. Barry Giannetti, the CFO. Pete Antoine, our Corporate Secretary. Joe Barletta, Director. Gracie Luna, Director. Larry Workman, Director. And I'm Jerry Monahan, I'm your Board Vice President. I'm going to be the President. Unless things go bad here, there's a new president. Welcome, Kathy.
Are we talking assassination?
Yeah. I'm talking, this is my door right there.
Okay, have you back.
Right, thank you. Pete will take care of me. The Finance Committee, I have tremendous respect for them and work with them in through this and the anguish that we all went through to do the right thing for our community. Those of you who are at the board meeting or got to see it on YouTube, got to see Claudia Rossi put on a presentation that had me and Laura and most other people. Claudia, I've said it before, thank you very much for that. Barry, good luck with the follow-up. Yeah, he says he can take it, he's from Penn State. What did Penn State, what does it say? Here we go. Finance Committee, starting with their chair, Claudia Rossi. Jolene Cooley, the Vice Chair. Boyd Bartlett, he's a member. Michael McQueen is a member. Howard Ochi, member. Peter Shuttleworth, member. And David Sweet. Thank you very, very much for all that you've done for us. I appreciate it, and I know the people here will too. And now, without further ado, we're 1 foot toward the door. I'm going to introduce Barry Giannetti, the CFO.
Good evening, everybody, neighbors. I don't think I have anything else to say. Jerry already spilled the beans. It's $15. Let me go. I'm going to go through this thing, not as if you were working at a corporate thing and line by line by line. We've done that for weeks and months. The Finance Committee, their subcommittee, working with the other committees. But today I'll try and give you the highlights and an understanding of where we are, how we got here. My presentation will follow a review of the budget process. We need to understand the processes to effect. We'll identify critical issues, and we had a lot of them this year that faced us, not only here, but just in the surrounding environment that we are, that had an impact on us. We'll discuss the major expense factors that cause increases in HOA dues, and then we'll review the fees. So, first thing we need to do is look at last year. This is the way the fee structure was set up for last year. As you can see, in 2020, we were 227. I'll look at the master. You can see that we have 5 different plans here. We have three cost centers: the Springdales, the Front Yard, and the master. The master being the big one that everybody contributes to. Well, it was $227 in 2020. In 2021, the recommendation came in at $230.40, a $3.40 increase. I'm an owner too, we didn't realize that in our pocketbook because we paid $227. The board made a determination based on the amount of money that was saved during the COVID experience in 2020. They were able to offset that $3.40. So last year, we still paid the $227. But in actuality, there was a raise intended to be here, but the money that was surplus from 2020 was used. And you can see we did similar things with the Front Yard. They had some surplus, so their fee only went up $2 instead of the $5.60 that was intended. And we'll talk about the Springdales later on. Very difficult for us to do a lot with the Springdales. They're their own cost center. And you're going to see the uniqueness of that cost center really has our hands tied on what their costs are. Okay, so the budget process began in August. A subcommittee of the Finance Committee, headed up by Boyd, I believe, met with the committee chairs. And the committee chairs came in and said, this is what we think we will spend this year. Could be reserve, could be a capital request. We kind of know what the ongoing expenses are, like water and the contracts and everything else. But they came in, so there was a meeting with those people. Then Boyd and his subcommittee then presented to the Finance Committee what they looked at. They looked at the previous 12 months of spending and the revenues that we obviously generate and made a projection to the committee. They received some budget guidance and goals from the board of directors. They drafted up the first budget pass, and they made reviews and recommendations. We had 3 workshops with the board of directors in preparation for this budget. We knew this was going to be a tough year. I mean, anybody here that doesn't realize what's going on out there economically, it's a shame. I mean, we are paying in every which way we can right now for things. And we really took a hard look. So we looked at the recommendation that came in, and keep that in mind. There's been people that think that the Finance Committee makes the decision. No, they do a thorough job, and they make a recommendation to the board. The board then makes a determination, do they accept that, or can we do something better with that? So there was some confusion. I read some things and talked to some people that they thought the Finance Committee makes the final decision. They make a recommendation to the board. Critical issues. I've been talking about it, but here are some of the ones. The impact of the ongoing pandemic. We don't know. It's turned our society upside down every which way that we can imagine. In my life, this is the first time I've ever experienced anything of this nature. And inflation. They talked about it being a temporary thing initially. The feds did, the government said, but it isn't going to be temporary. These prices have gone up, as you can see the amounts on the screen. They're not going to fall back to where they were. The sheets of plywood that you bought for $22 to $25 a piece that were $75, they're not going to go back to 22 or 25. If you're a merchant, you're not going to do it. You're going to take it away. So these are just some critical issues in there. Notice that the CPI for Riverside County, 6.8%. It's the highest in the state of California. 6.8% our Riverside County, the CPI. Notice the energy costs that are going up. Look at the salaries that people are getting over here. Professionals getting 5.7% more, 5.6% more for non-farm working. Building materials, I got that from the city. The city engineer was presenting some information to the council 2 weeks ago, and he said he was going through some expense items, and the critical one is building materials. He's noticed building materials are going up 15.5%. We've experienced it here on some things that we've done. the canine corral wanted to get a shade structure, and they got an initial proposal for it, but they didn't have the money raised to be able to buy it. When they went back 9 months later, the thing almost doubled. So that's what we're facing in the marketplace. And food, 4.6%. My thing is, I do the shopping. I've done the shopping for a lot, and one of the things I buy at this time of year are cranberries in a can, Ocean Spray. Anybody looked at the price of what a can of Ocean Spray is? $2.95. Last year it was $1.89, and you can buy the house brand for under $1.89. You can't even buy the house brand for $2 now. And it's Thanksgiving when it used to be on sale. So they're the kind of prices that we're all seeing. I mean, these are things that we need in our daily life. Another thing that's an unusual phenomenon, and it's the highest ever in the Social Security market. All of us that are collecting Social Security have gotten a raise of 9.6% coming into this year. So they recognize that. Listen to one of the congresswomen that said this was needed and necessary. It's a one-time deal. You probably won't see it again. But there's a realization about the cost of living and how much it's going up that they gave a 9.6. Normally it's 1.5%, 2%. If you didn't know this, that's a pleasant surprise. 9.6. Master budget. Okay. Here are the major expense impacts on the major budget. When the Finance Committee puts the budget together, they not only look at the contract and see what the prices are, they look at all the things that we buy and look at changes. We go out and look at what are the utility changes, water, electric, natural gas, the sewer. We put that all in. If we have new contracts, we add in that information. And that's what we're faced with. Us as homeowners are faced with that too. We're not exempt. Some people think that we should keep flat. Our fees shouldn't be any more than they are, but we're not exempt from what's going on outside in the real world. It is what it is. So there are prices, and if you look at our water, electric, natural gas, and sewer, it's over $500,000 we spend. So you can put the numbers to that, take an average of those up there, although water and electric account for about 80% of it. You can see just there, the increase we're going to have if we keep using the same amount of electricity, water, gas, and things like that. Contract increases, our biggest contract this year that came up with janitorial services, and they had a 3% increase, but they hadn't increased this in 3 years. So they had no price increases. They came this year with 3%, which I thought was pretty reasonable. And administrative salaries and everything have gone up accordingly with the state law and the minimum salary requirements and everything else. Plus, the difficulty it is for First Service to hire people right now. It's not an easy phenomenon when you're competing with McDonald's at $17 and $18 an hour. You have to match that if you want to get it. So, things to keep in mind. So, with that, the master budget is moving from 227 to 242. Let me just step back a second. The initial recommendation from the Finance Committee was a $25 increase. It was a $25 increase. And you say, why 25? They looked at it and said, if we continue all the things that we're doing right now in the same manner, it's a $25 increase. Well, that's when we started having our BOD meetings, and we started looking line item by line item. And there's things that we think we can get a grip on. We're looking into water, huge amount of water. We spent about $300,000 on water. And all of us know about the running streams down the street and the soggy grass. We're trying to reduce that water so that we can cut that expense down. We're looking at, instead of keeping this place like a walk-in refrigerator, we may raise the degrees 2 degrees so we can save on that. So there's things that we looked at line item by line item to come up with $15 without changing what we're accustomed to here. The only thing that would be left is, well, you could close the courts maybe every other day and have the summit open every other day. That could cut our costs, utility costs, personnel costs, and so forth. But that's what we came here for, is the amenities. And with the amenities, it's what drives the cost. I looked up something about HOA fees, and out of about 40 million HOA homes and condos, the range of HOA fees is anywhere from $100 to $1,000 a month. The average is $250. And what drives the higher price end is amenities. When you say we're recommending 240, not recommending, we approve 242, which is below the average. When you say we're a below average facility, look around at our neighbors, look around elsewhere. We have a great facility here, great landscape, great pools, clubhouses, and so forth. So we're below what is a national average on those fees. I was speaking to someone earlier this evening, and she was telling me about a place they own down in Palm Desert. And they have a clubhouse and they have a pool. They don't have a golf course. They're paying $700 a month for the condo fee. I think we have a lot better than that. So, as I said, if you look, our percent of change on our fee this year, going up $15, is a 6.4% increase. What was the CPI for Riverside? 6.8. We didn't use that. That isn't the way we do it. We don't use a dartboard. At the end, we looked at it and compared and said, boy, we did a pretty good job here. We actually kept it at or a little below the CPI. Front yard. I don't have a lot to say about the front yard except that it's going to remain the same at $70. They benefited with the new lawn landscape contract and everything else. They're situated that $70 that they paid last year is right. So there is no change there. There's no critical factors influencing the front yard cost center. Springdales. How many people from the Springdales here? Okay, got a couple of people. This is a tough one. I'll admit, it's a very, very tough one. And here's the whole issue. 90% of the expenses for the Springdales is insurance cost. And it went up about $9,000 this year. You say, well, $9,000 isn't much. But when you divide it by 113 units, it does. It's the Springdales. There's only two things in the Springdales that are there. They have the reserve and the insurance make up everything. So the reserve is one part. About 45% of the payment for Springdales is reserve cost. 55% is in operation. Let me tell you, we as a board have been working with the insurance company. We sat down with the insurance company and looked at all kinds of ways of how we could reduce that cost. How can we keep that cost contained? The best we are. We have as high a deductible as is allowed. It gives us any benefit. So, the fact of life is, the insurance policy is what really drives our cost here. So, the Springdales, there's the plan 1, 2, and 3 up here, and as you can see, as it's rated, one of them's going up 1042, one's going up 1124, and one's going up 1268. And these are the percent increases, so they're increasing on average about 10.5%. I would like, at this time, if anybody has any questions, I would entertain those. Anybody have a question in the back? Can you state your name?
Drew Savage.
I've got a mic.
Got a mic coming behind you?
Of the outside vendors that you're using in your renegotiation, are you seeking other bids?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so I guess the question I have is that businesses right now are really hurting for business. I'm just questioning the negotiation on contracts, because I'm telling you, I'm looking at the numbers, and I'm telling you, I think you guys could do a much better job in negotiating landscaping. The janitorial service is outrageous. I've been in HOA before. And I'm just telling you, I think you need to look a little closer at negotiating these contracts and who you're doing business with.
Well, we had bids in on janitorial. Last year we went through an extensive process with landscaping, and we gave it to Park West. And their prices were right in there with the 4 people that bid it. Plus, their service was a lot better than what they provided us. There wasn't any difference. I'll tell you right now, businesses are hurting. They're hurting in being able to do the work that people were asking to do. If you notice, we've been trying to get a shuffleboard court built in the back. It's been about 8 or 9 months. And the reason is the person, the contractor, can't get people to come out and do the work. He's practically doing it with himself and his son to be able to lay the stuff. That's what I hear from everybody. And anybody I go around town, the businesses that I interface, is they want to do work, they just don't have people. People are sitting back on it. I hear you. We do have a process. We instituted a little over a year ago a contracting subcommittee that's reviewing all of our contracts and making sure that we are entertaining the best prices from a standpoint of price and also the satisfaction in the work they're doing. We don't have that many. How many contracts do we have? About 10 that are
substantial? Yeah,
about 10 that are substantial. Park West, First Services, the janitorial, the security. Last year we bid the security one, and we picked the one that was I think it was the lowest. When they came in, there was one that was higher and one was lower, but then they raised their price at the last minute, and we just discarded that.
And you've done a cost analysis on whether on the janitorial service going outside or hiring from inside and doing it inside?
Well, that's a thing that we can consider.
I would consider it.
Yeah, we did do that with maintenance. About 3 years ago, we were hiring an outside contractor to provide maintenance men to go around and do tighten screws, change light bulbs, and stuff like that, do a little patchwork. And we looked at the price and said, wow, this is really ridiculous. There's 2 guys. We knew what kind of salary they're getting. This guy was making more than they were together. So we decided to bring that in-house, and we did. And we saved about $75,000, $80,000 in doing that. So janitorial is something we can consider, but remember what we have here in janitorial. We have 3 buildings.
I understand that. I've been in this business before. I know what it costs. And I'm just telling you, those janitorial costs are through the roof.
the janitorial contract includes all the products. It's not just salaries. It includes all of the paper and cleaning products.
And also, is that part of the dog station cleanup too?
Yes.
Yeah. So our dog station cleanup to handle that and clean the stations is all part of the janitorial.
I would look at having your maintenance people do that.
And then the maintenance people got to go figure out how to dump this.
I just think you need to look in other areas to save
I
money.
think it is a good point.
Look at an 8% cut of cost across the board, and then you wouldn't have to look at this. Okay? That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
All right?
Somebody else up here?
Yeah, Barry.
Get the mic first. Both of you.
Yeah, hi everybody, Jeff Wilson. Barry, I just like to know what our legal expenses are. I know I talked to Jerry every safety meeting about this, and he told me about the ongoing litigation with the cracks in the road. And I'm just wondering if we're ever going to get to the end of that, and what kind of legal fees we're experiencing on that.
I can't address the issue because there is a legal case going on, the case of the cracks of the road, so I can't say anything about that. But I can say that we are under the budget that we have for legal fees. I believe it's about $25,000 is what we budget for, and we're slightly under that. Yes?
We're on a contingency on the cracks in the roads and stuff. If they don't collect anything, we don't pay.
Okay. So you got that as a contingency with the cracks in the roads with the KHOB situation. Okay?
Yeah, I was just thinking, to bring it to a close and get it sorted out, maybe we could sort of go to arbitration or something like that and actually have it finished up and have the roads repaired and the whole, because lawyers like to keep things going forever.
Oh, lawyers like to keep things going. And that's where it is right now, is we had our inspector go out and do the work and issue a report, and they had to go get their inspector to issue their report. So yes, That's going on, and the lawyers love it. The clock keeps running.
Yeah.
I got one over here, and then we'll come over there, David.
Eric, do we have to do anything different for automatic deduction that goes to first service?
You might. So if you're signed up for ClickPay, when you originally signed up, if you said take the amount that's due, no. If you hard-coded in the website to take out whatever your dues are currently, then yes, you would have to go in and change that to be what the new dues would be. And in your bank account, if you do online bill pay, you would need to adjust it there as well.
So you'll send out instructions?
Yes. That will be going out by November 30th. The big package that we ask people to read.
So that instructions on how to update their.
I'm not sure if it'll have instructions because we don't know every person's bill pay system, but it'll say if you're in the master, you're now 242. Please adjust that. If you're in the front yard cost center, you don't need to do anything. If you're in the Springdales, look at what your current plan is and adjust it accordingly to the new amount.
Okay. And then the new change goes into effect for the January
1st.
Okay. Over here, David.
Getting back to the previous question about the litigation and how we deal with the cracks in the road. I walk this community on a regular basis, and it's not just the roads that have now potholes. And I have photographs if you'd like to see these potholes. We have bikers in the community, and today, getting here, I followed a motorcyclist down Four Seasons, and there's a pothole that's about 20 inches across, okay? And that is growing every day. Now, if that motorcyclist would have a tumble and a fall, our exposure as a homeowner is going to be substantial, just as we've had trees that have actually caused damage to properties. And, we're never shared with the status of where we are with these things. I see the orange stripes on the sidewalk where there's great separation, and I think that we would be really in a state of high liability if these weren't addressed and we're being informed of it. You can't say that some litigation, we're going to wait until the builder takes care of it, because that's not the way things work. Who is going to get sued? The builder that's long gone? You yourself, Barry, said that in your candidacy for your position right now, you said that Cahoe is long gone. And if you want me to read your statement, I'd be fine to read your statement to the audience here. We need to be really updated and kept abreast of these things, and don't keep it secret. That's not right.
David, legal issues are able to be kept until they're settled. We're not allowed to discuss them. They're turned over immediately to our lawyers. We have no way to give you. All we can tell you is there's proceedings moving forward on it. Your point about liability, I agree. We do not have the permission from our lawyers to say anything and discuss it. It's covered by the Sunshine Act.
Then we need to see a written statement to that effect. Because what is said, whether it be in an open session board meeting or in these small community meetings, is basically not in writing. I want to see our legal counsel say that we can't discuss this. And in that, I have everything frame of mind that it's all taken care of. But right now, it's not. Just like the 14 parcels that haven't been turned over.
Okay,
all of these things.
David,
this is all about budget.
We went to the lawyers and spent a lot of money examining that. And the parcels have been turning over because of the process between Riverside. We weren't a priority on getting it through, and those parcels aren't there. You're going up the wrong street there. And I can tell you very firmly that we don't have to talk about legal personnel issues or what's the other one?
Legal personnel.
Contract negotiations until the contract's official. That is completely held tight. And that's covered by Sterling Davis.
Okay, I'm just going to correct you right now publicly. The cost of living for Social Security is only 5.9%. not the 9.6 that you presented.
Did I had 9.6, didn't I?
That is correct. And the correct amount is 5.9%.
Okay.
So I don't know
My
why
mistake.
anybody misled here, okay?
Okay. Thank you. My mistake. 5.6%. 5.9. What did I had at 9.5? Dyslexic fingers. You know? Any other questions? Questions? Over here. Over here. We get the mic. That way I can hear you, but everybody else will be able to hear you.
Good evening, everybody. Will Alexander, I just would like to know, all the money that was saved in 2020 through COVID, what happened to it, and they need to raise it again this year? I know there had to be a lot of money saved last year. Some HOA lowered, and some replaced. You guys did. I said that he came out, and they said, oh, the board has to get together and check on that. But some money had to go somewhere.
The COVID savings last year was about $90,000. And that was used to defray, when I went back to my first slide, that $3.40 increase. We used that to offset that so that we didn't increase the fee to you from a technical standpoint. It wasn't, you should have paid $3.40. We said, oh, we got this COVID money, and we're going to put that back. And then we used it to pay that down. So we did use it.
So $3 of that was raised from last year. Your raise this year is actually only the $12 part. So together they make $15. So we paid for your raise last year, and this year we can't pay for that raise anymore, but that $3 is got to be covered. So the raise for this year is actually not $15. It's what, $11.60?
$11.60.
Yeah, $11.60 and $3.40. So that's, it's not, I mean, it's not as bad as it looks in some sense, because we already had that raise last year. We didn't pay that.
Well, did anything come out and say it was 90,000 that was in the
Well, last year when the budget was presented, it was discussed, and it was there was a Breeze article with that, yes. Because we were tracking that all along. We knew with the centers closed, you know, this place, if everything is shut down, we still have cost here. But we were able to identify hard items that we saved on. One was with the buildings closed, we didn't need janitors. So the janitor, we were able to save $29,000 a month on janitorial fees. I mean, but we still had to pay for the lawnmowers, we still had to pay for water, electric, and everything else here at a smaller amount. The big savings was the janitorial last year. Anybody else? Jerry? Oh. Please.
I just want to know if you're going to be raising the dues every year?
Our intention is to do a zero-based budget every year, is to look at the budget and build a budget and see what our costs are. We look at all the factors that can influence that budget. I mean, like looking at the utility cost. We have no control over this. I mean, when you look at it, I mean, to see electricity and water going up 9–10%, and we can't do anything about it. What we're looking at is a way to use less water and use less electric in our process. We're determining that may be a way. Can I stand up here and say we won't have increases? Can't say that. I mean, we sure try as hard as we can. I know since, you know, last year, should have been an increase, but we were able to subsidize it. It was the same the year before that. There had been a raise the year before that took it to $227. And then there was a period of time where we had 4 or 5 years with no raise. So it's just a matter of the circumstances. If the economy keeps going like it is, I couldn't promise you. I mean, we're all doing it. I mean, we're paying for some of the highest ever in California for gas right now, for our cars. I mean, what do you do if you have to drive your car a minimal or a lot? You're paying that, paying 50% more. Chloe?
One thing I'd like to remind everybody is the history of this organization. And that is that we were finally built out, and I think the changeover happened in 2019. So before that, there were years of time where dues were not raised because you were still building. The developer was still on the property. The developer paid dues to this organization as soon as they opened a phase of homes. So I want to give you some history. So a phase would open, they'd have about 6 lots, and they would wait to sell them. But as soon as they opened those pieces of dirt for sale, they had to pay the HOA dues every month. So there was a lot of money building up over the years while Cable was still building. And that is where our surplus operating comes from, and that is why dues were stable for a long period of time. Then in 2019, everything got built out, the developer left, and now we are on our own. So I got to tell you, any cost increase comes out of our pockets. So I want to ask each and every one of you to think of your own homeowner experience since you've lived here. Are you paying the same every month, or for in 2021, for all things it takes for you to live on a monthly basis in your home than you did in 2016, 2017, 2018? What's going to happen to your home and your budget and all of your expenses in 2022? So as an association, we face that same need for the same level of revenue to come into the organization in order to support this organization. So the first thing I would say to any homeowner, and I'm not a board member, thank God, that would be, okay, you don't want the dues to raise, and that's exactly what I told the board when I said, we recommend a $25 increase, and the board's going, what? And I said, well, tell me which facility you want to close. Is it the courts or is it the summit? You tell me. Because that cuts staffing, it cuts electricity, it cuts gas, it cuts water. Everything you want to cut, close a facility. Well, wait a minute here, we have 3 facilities. So when everybody talks about other HOAs, say, do you have 3 facilities? Do you have 8 tennis courts? We don't have 8 tennis courts anymore because 2 of them were converted to 4 pickleballers, or 4 were converted to 8 pickleballers. I always get confused. But we have 2 courts facilities, the grounds here and then the courts. We have 3 clubhouses. We have 3 gyms. It's not a full gym up at the summit, but we do have some sports equipment up at the summit. We have 3 pools, 3 spas. Parking lots up the kazoo here. People don't realize parking lots take a lot of money too, to maintain. Look at all the grounds we have, all the open space you can walk your dog, you can walk through. Costs go up every year. And I would say to the homeowner that says, do you expect costs to go up every year? My answer is yes. Be prepared. Every year, costs are going to go up. We cannot control electricity rates. The electricity rates went up 11%. Try cutting your own home usage by 11%. That's a lot. That's more than 10% of your daily usage. Turn the lights off for 2 hours a day. Turn that refrigerator up to 45 degrees and not do anything else. You can't save 11% of your electricity on a monthly basis. Yet your rates went up. Everybody's, homes and commercial. The other thing about an HOA, we are commercially classed for all rate structures, whether it be sewer. In fact, Eric and the staff, we had a problem with the sewer bills about 2 years ago. And so we asked the staff to call the company and find out, the water company. And for years, they had misclassified this entity here, the HOA, as a residential account. They corrected themselves. Somebody came out and said, hey, you're billing at the wrong rate. You're not a resident, you're a commercial facility. This happened at the summit, when the summit got built. Our rates went up $1,000 a month for the whole HOA, just because we are commercially classed in our rate structures. So again, as a business, and that's what we are, a business, costs go up every year. I want to say to you, you tell me what business didn't have costs go up in 2020 and 2021, and it is not going to have costs go up in 2022. Every business you do business with, you're paying more. We're paying more at Walmart, believe it or not, for all kinds of little junky things. You see the Port of LA stacked up, boats out in the harbor waiting to unload. There's not enough truckers, there's not enough warehousemen, there's not enough in the delivery system to cure this problem right now. And it's costing us more for every other item that we buy because of it. So our HOA, we consume goods here. We consume paper products and janitorial liquids, and all of our vendors use gasoline to get here and gasoline to do their business on our property. So when you look at all those mowers and you look at all the Park West trucks, we're buying that gasoline at 4 something a gallon. Okay? Costs are going to go up every year. We own everything now, and we're all responsible.
And it's here whether we use it or we don't. I'd like to finish up because Jerry did acknowledge the Finance Committee. I want to acknowledge them. We are very, very fortunate. I spent a lot of time in the corporate world and been through a lot of budget meetings at fairly high levels. The people we have are our neighbors, and they were introduced. And they're volunteers, but they bring unbelievable expertise. They aren't just people sitting on this committee. They're CPAs, they're auditors, they're accountants, they're bankers, they're investors. So when they do this thing, this isn't like a little kid's exercise where you go, well, we spent this much this year, we're going to spend more. There's a lot of analysis that goes in and a lot of work. We are very fortunate that if you had to pay for those 7 people, you'd probably have $1.5 million payroll in what I used to experience to have that level of person working for us. I also recommend anybody here that has questions about processes, we have room on the committees. Finance can take another person in there right now. Facilities can. If you have some ideas, bring them to the thing and experience. Like I said, come out and be here and give us some ideas. We're putting in processes. We've only run, this is the 3rd year that we have totally done the budget on our own. And we were within less than 1% in our calculation on the budget. Think about that, a $5 million budget. And we're within 1% of hitting the number over or under. That's a rounding error when you get to $5 million, that little bit of money there. So we're putting in new processes. The contracting is a big thing that we saw that we didn't take advantage of, but that's part of the learning process. And now we have a team that specifically looks enough in advance to be able to get some bids and RFPs out in time. So I do implore you, if you want to do something, we definitely could use some people in here and bring your expertise to the table and be heard. Jerry? You good? Okay.